Hey guys, welcome to episode 38 of CMDTower's Brews and Builds. I'm Mr. Comma number 5, and my fellow host is coming to the dark side finally and ordering a mana crypt, BigTuck.
Oh no, you didn't do it. You didn't do it.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But first off, hey, quarantiners and quarantinees. We're all starting to lose our marbles a little bit. And as a side shoe to that, because I'm not spending any money, I was like, well, I got this fancy new reserved list piece of Magic history that I got graciously gifted from my friends and from my friends and Mr. Combo. Kidding. He orchestrated the whole thing. It was very extraordinarily nice of him. And I was like, well, it's $100. It's probably the lowest it's going to be for a while. I don't own one. Maybe just get nuts. Who knows? I don't know. The world doesn't make sense anymore. And then, time doesn't matter. Don't give in. Money doesn't matter.
But then, like Commander Smith Lowry agreed, once you own a real one, you can get your $3, $4, $5 proxy and put it into other decks.
Just get 15 of them. I'm on the instead of 100 soul rings, I'm on the chase for 100 mana crypts.
I might be able to track one down for you.
I am losing my mind.
Well, that's nice. Well, thanks for tuning into our podcast, guys. And this is only able to happen by our awesome producer, Squee McGee, and his production company, Rich Chaos Records, here in Quarantine City. What's going on, Squee?
Yeah, losing the marbles just a little bit. You know, it's been quite a few moments during the day where I've been walking around the house thinking to myself, well, I don't know what to do now.
I guess I could put on pants. Nah,
I'll be fine. So, no, I'm doing all right. Just plugging away down here in the basement as normal. So, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. I haven't lost my marbles yet. I've just been losing my D6s.
Oh, like a...
Well, at least you're not losing your D20s yet. Those are too important.
If you want to know more ways you can support the CMD Tower team and bits like this, head over to our sponsor, level1gameshop.com. They sell magic accessories like that exclusive CMD Tower playmat and Mat Hunter Pack sleeves. They also do have a great TCG player store with an over 99% accuracy rating and very competitive prices. And of course, supporting your LGSs during this time is even more relevant. And I will actually give them a little tip to the cat. I ordered some cards Sunday late night. They arrived at my house Tuesday.
Wow. Okay. Really?
Yeah. They are on top of... I mean, granted, we're local, so, the mail doesn't have to do that much. But, they literally got it shipped out the next day. It was fantastic.
Mail actually is the original series of tubes. It's got actual...
Dude, USPS has been putting me on tilt. They almost... I don't know what was going on, but BigTuck's his Zazon Tamar that we got him for his birthday literally went from Minnesota to Kansas City to Minnesota to Kansas City, back to Minnesota, and then we finally got it delivered to Kansas City after I called the post office and said, listen here, you little rat bastards. I know where you live, and I will stand up.
There's a reserved list piece of magic history on that truck.
I know where you live, and I've seen where you sleep.
I can sympathize. I ordered a chair, and FedEx didn't put any information about it for 2 weeks. They just said it arrived at the warehouse, and I assume they just hung it up on the ceiling and left it there for a while. And then eventually they looked up and they go, oh, yeah, I guess we should deliver that. But that's how things are.
Sign of the times.
Yeah. Well, another way you guys can support the show is to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMDTower. Yeah. We have 4 different pledge levels, and rewards vary from just getting access to our Discord or getting your own set of CMD Tower playmats and sleeves. And yes, the squad can sign them, but obviously we're trying to do the social distancing thing, so we have a new Patreon to announce. Spencer, thank you very much, bud.
Woo,
glad you joined the collective.
Yes.
And Spencer even kind of said, hey, if you guys can hold off on shipping me my mat until you guys can all sign it, I'd appreciate it. So if you want to do that like Spencer, hop on. And then also we got John the Mace Mosner.
Coming in
I don't
hot
know if it's actually
Mosner, yeah.
I don't know if it's the Mace. It just says parentheses Mace, but I'm going to call him John the Mace Mosner. Kind of sounds like a WWE wrestler name.
It does. Is it like the old school Mace you swing on the ball and the chain with the spikes on it, like from Gladiator?
Oh, I was thinking of like power walking mace.
For starters, that's a flail.
A flail.
The ball and chain. A mace is a solid piece, usually used by clerics. And second off, I can tell you with some personal experience that the modern mace actually works wonders and is horrible. So
Why do you know this for personal experience?
I will say it was myself and my own doing.
Yep.
And I was
I felt like we needed to air that out there so people didn't think you're some predator.
Let's clear the air here. I did do it to myself. When I was heavily in my cups, but that's a story for a different time. I was the macer and the mace E in that situation.
Impressive.
Yeah, well, what can you say?
Well, every episode, guys, we do want to give a big shout out to the music provided by Pink Royal. And of course, stay tuned till the end so you can get details on how you can win a mystery Commander 20 deck from our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop.
Ooh.
So Brews and Builds is our deck series. It's all about the decks that BigTuck and I have in our Path to 32. Each podcast, we're going to talk about one of those Path to 32 decks, but hey, in a cool manner of brewing some beers. So we broke it down into 4 categories. The first one's going to be ramp and setting your board state. That's the grain bill.
Yes, and grains are the foundation of any beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually about a 60-40 ratio. These help with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the end alcohol content of the beer. Decks always needs ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp into your bigger threats, and just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
And then the next one's going to be, how does your board interact with your opponent's hands, life totals, and what they have on the board? We're calling that the hot profile.
Ooh. Like it's hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal and floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and can be added at different parts of the brewing process. Don't know if you guys knew that or not. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can do what it wants.
You know what? On episode 38, I did not know that, so I appreciate that.
There you go.
Learned something new today.
And then the next one's going to be, how does your deck actually close out, win the game, and do what it wants? We're calling that yeast.
Yes, the yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and then poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds alcohol content and the carbonation. Without the yeast, you'd be drinking flat sugar water, and without yeast cards in your deck, you wouldn't meet the actual goal of winning the game.
And then the last kind of thing we add to that recipe, it's shenanigans. These can be kind of pet card synergies to the deck, like, for me, Altar of the Brood, that are just kind of fun because everyone enjoys an Altar of the Brood. We're calling that the Altar of the Brood. Oh, sorry, I meant Spice Package.
The Spice segment brought to you by Altar of the Brood. Not every beer has them. The spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the addition of hops that turn an IPA into a double IPA, or the addition of vanilla extract that turns a porter into a vanilla porter. Not every deck has something that makes it pop, but if it does, it's where we talk about it. Honestly, forgot that there was even more after that, because I was so proud that I was able to do that off script. So there you have it.
And then to wrap up the podcast, we have a bottle capping. These are going to be BigTuck's and myself's recommendations and cuts to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a personal recommendation that actually has no budget, but we never seem to break it except for Stay Too Long.
It has been a while since we've had a monster expensive one.
But you know, the only restriction, the tabernacle debacle.
All fond memories of that one.
The only restriction is no mana, only land. So without further ado, let's get brewing. Today we're talking bring your Ownoros. Boros? Ownoros? Boros?
I appreciate the effort.
Yeah. Let's say the saran wrap is stretched pretty thin.
This is BigTuck's Bring Your Own Commander deck, and we actually thought we'd do something kind of cool.
Yeah.
In light of that concept, we have each picked a legend that we will be centering our picks and cuts around. But, you know, BigTuck, before you say what your legend is, how did you kind of come into this deck style?
Oh, boy. This is a one I've had for a long time. And honestly, it's gone through so many iterations and different commanders. I honestly don't even remember what I was trying to start it with. I think it was more focused on tokens with Drina the Guard, who gives everything melee. That came out of my Conspiracy 2 monster box. I'll drink about that. She also be really good in that new Mardu Humans, so keep an eye out for that. Then I went to Iroas for a bit. That didn't really work, and I kind of landed on the one I'm going with. But in reality, it's kind of built to where there's, in my opinion, there's pretty much like 4 options, 3 of which are angels, and then the other one is Iroas, as we mentioned before. The one that I started building around more recently to give it something that has a little bit more of a semblance of an identity is Archangel Addison. This is the flip Avicenna that came out of Shadows over Innistrad, and she has 2 sides. On the face side, she is a 3 colorless white for a 4/4 flash flying vigilance, which is pretty good stats out the gates there. And then when she enters the battlefield, creatures she control gain indestructible until end of turn, which really plays into part of my deck strategy. When a non-angel creature you control dies, transform it at the beginning of the next upkeep. When she flips over, she becomes Avicenna the Purifier, a 6/5 flyer. When this creature transforms into Avicenna the Purifier, deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So the way I've kind of built this shell is more around the front side of it than the back. I don't run that many non-angels in the deck, and I'm kind of trying to lean it towards a little bit more of an angel sub-theme, just to kind of, again, give it a little more identity. It's really about the indestructible. So the main 3 things that this deck focuses on, in my opinion, is and this kind of goes across the different commanders, is prevention of damage, giving things indestructible or other cards, some semblance of evasion, mostly with flying, with our angels, and then finally some semblance of Voltron with a little bit of support in that thing. So it still kind of gets into the red zone. It's still a Boros deck that's not feather, so you're still attacking for most of the way that you're going to win the game, unfortunately. So that's kind of where it's landed. It still probably has some shells and skeletons in its closet of girlfriends past, but we may or may not be getting to that into the cut. So, Mr. Combo, you've seen this current iteration before. What do you think compared to how it's been? Because I'm sure you've seen this played many times.
I actually can't remember the last time I ever saw this played, which probably begs to what the deck is, because the deck doesn't have an identity.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be one. I mean, honestly, I think you would be shocked if I said, you know what, I remember the exact time I played your Boros deck, because you'd be like, holy goat cannoli.
What year?
Who's the commander?
Yeah, what year? What year was this in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I understand where you kind of went with it, but where I kind of wanted to focus the deck around is actually swapping Archangel Addison into the 99 and doing Anya, Merciless Angel, as my legend.
Really good,
because I think she does some things similar to Avicenna, but does more of what Boros wants.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Anya, guys, she is a true Weatherlight report in very few decks. 3 colorless Boros, red white. She is a mythic. And she's a 4/4 legendary creature angel. She has flying, and she gets +3/+3 for each opponent whose life total is less than half his or her starting life total. But here's where I think it's kind of great. So she gets buffed as each opponent gets lower, but if any opponent has less than half of his or her starting life total, she also has indestructible.
Yeah.
So I think she really kind of goes in. We got a similar CMC to Avicenna, or Archangel Addison. Right. And yes, she can't flash in and give yourself indestructible for that one turn. Right. But I think these colors, not being feather, need to beat face as much as you possibly can. And I think that by the time you hit turn 5, just through natural attrition, playing smaller stuff, you could have an opponent at 20 life on turn 5 or 6.
I agree. And there's a lot of things in here that are deals damage to creatures and players across the board. Yep. So actually, you know what? I just remembered this deck actually, it started as the giant tribal precon.
I kind of remember that.
That was the one I got just because everyone else at my local game, at my LGS at the time, had already called dibs on the other ones, and we were doing this tournament, I think, and I tried to make that work. That is trash. It's not a good deck. And then I think coincidentally, 1 or 2 times I won. I think I was actually playing Anya as the leader for a minute, and then I don't even remember. Like I said, I've played it so many times. I think she is a very viable option. Again, she's gonna get big. You give her some semblance of double strike, or give her some sort of way around that. A lot of different ways you can go with that too. So I think she's a great option for it as well. Next time I play it, actually will probably just swap her for Avicenna and see what happens. So I like it. And again, I think it kind of plays into the same thing, right? Same with evasion, same with Voltron, she prevents damage to herself. So I'm interested to hear how that might play in and what you chose out of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the interesting thing that your deck shows is a lot of restraint, considering a lot of the good Boros cards are these big angels, which you have a bunch of them. But still, your CMC is only 3/4/1, which was very shocking.
It was surprising to me too, but I think I've gone through and one thing that I learned playing this deck over the years was I put in a lot of a lot more of whatever ramp I could possibly find in these colors. And that's helped a lot. And then I even used to have even more like big, huge creatures in it. And then they just get board wiped and you sit there doing nothing. So I think, and you can see that because the yeast package is pretty lean. But anything in the yeast kind of on its own, if unchecked, can do a lot of damage. So it was very surprising to me to see that low CMC as well. But that was good. And then again, this deck, that color pie might as well have been blank. So it looks like I could swap out a couple of planes or a couple of mountains for some planes.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. With you doing a whole bring your own commander thing, I think it's fine almost having a 50-50 split on your mana, because very easily you could put Anya in here and all of a sudden you want to put in a few more red cards, and then it's just going to move. And now you don't have to think, oh, I've swapped out cards, now let me fix my lands. Yeah, your lands are about dead even. I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, and again, to your point, like there's some cards like Archangel Addison is double white, right? Some cards that I have that you could run as the commander are double red with less white, and it kind of goes back and forth. So and like I've kind of run into some land problems before, but I mean that's
Boros.
Yeah, exactly. And like I already have we'll probably get into it, but I have almost every single good Boros ramp card in here except for like one or two, I think.
I didn't see a Weathered Wayfarer.
I know. I put that. I even cracked one in my mystery, and I almost talked about it, but that card's so rote. Now that that's cheap, that will probably actually go in immediately when I get my next copy.
Well, there we go. Well, guys, let's head into that ramp and grain bill. BigTuck, kick us off. What's the first card when you're doing an Archangel Addison deck that you want to talk about that would be a good ramp or setting your board state card?
Sure. I went to kind of broader ones with this, but I chose the one card that I think does something that is kind of hard to do in these colors. So I'm actually talking about Remember the Fallen.
Me too.
Yeah! That sweet 16 cent card.
Yeah, I've never seen this card before. It's really cool.
Well, I have a few copies of them if I ever get to see you again in person. So maybe I'll
probably won't happen.
Maybe I'll sneak. Yeah, I know, right? So Remember the Fallen is I'll read the type and then the flavor text, and you read what it actually does. How about that?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I was about to say it's because you're not wearing your glasses, but you actually are.
I am. I learned my lessons. I have to, or it just gives me pounding headaches. So Remember the Fallen is 2 colorless and a white. It's a sorcery from Maraudin Besiege block. When the Mirrans had fallen, planeswalkers carried the burden of remembrance.
Choose one or both. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Semicolon and /or. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. 3 mana. Return potentially 2 things to your hand. Amazing.
In white. And again, like as we've talked about multiple times, I'm kind of a sucker for module cards or things that give you a reach. And I think like this mostly will get back. Most times I've played this, it's gotten back a creature that got destroyed, right? Like some of the big swingers. It's kind of got some play around with a couple of your Commander Sphere. I've gotten that back before after I sacked it and drew a card. I just like the fact that it's either. I think if it's both, that would make it not quite as good.
Sure.
But I mean, 2 for 1 is great. Getting just a big creature that's been destroyed back. I know it's not super splashy or exciting, but for a Boros deck, I think this is like one of the premier graveyard cheap budget recursion spells.
Yeah, so the reason I picked it for my Anya deck was because since you do have a lot of wipey things in here.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Anya, I think probably 70% of the time is going to be indestructible. Unless you just get the nut Boros draw and you're just ramping so hard to get her out turn 3, which, whatever. But, most of the time it's going to be because you had other stuff out that got blew up. Yeah. And I do think that this deck, the way it wins is very glass cannon. Where you need some of those specific yeast cards, and if someone removes it, you're just kind of like, well,
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Maybe I can just pick you away 4 at a time,
right?
And get that win. So I like it because I think it's a great late game grain card to kind of reestablish maybe something that got blown up a little bit earlier.
Totally agree. Do you want to go into your next one?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one I wanted to talk about, I do love a good planeswalker. We're talking Chandra, Fire Artisan.
This card is so good.
So good. 78 cents. 2 colorless, red. Legendary Planeswalker, rare, 4 loyalty, ETB, and it has a static. Whenever one or more loyalty counters are removed from Chandra, it deals that much damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. +1, exile the top card of your library, you may play it this turn. -7, exile the top 7 of your library, you may play them this turn.
Yes.
So the reason I actually like this is not so much for the card draw, but because you're going to be plussing it, and people eventually, they don't want you to do the -7.
Right.
You're going to hit them for 7. So they're going to try to go in and hit it, but then you're just going to point that damage at their face,
Absolutely.
lower their life total, and now Anya is that much closer to someone being at half their life total. So you're getting card draw, you're getting your opponent's life lower, which then therefore gives your commander +3/+3 and indestructible just
Absolutely.
permanently. It does a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's great, and like especially like in red, like white. For the most part, except for maybe a handful of cards, white doesn't even have this built-in kind of card draw in it, right? Like this is like the hey, I'm in red, I'm drawing cards.
Sure.
Pretty much, right? Like that's what this exactly does. So like this, and there's some other in here that do this sort of things. Really, it just helps filter, right? It does suck when you know, get her in play, and then you +1 and you get a land, or you get something you can't get and it's gone for the game. But again, you know, that's pretty fringe. Picking off Planeswalkers is great for this. Just discards walkers, like, and especially for 78 cents. Like, I know when I saw this previewed, I was like, oh, it's okay. And then I saw it was 78 cents. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just pick up 10, I suppose.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'll be honest. It's not something I'd put in my Boros, like my Feather Boros. I wouldn't put it in my Mono Red Niheb. But if I'm building this deck around Anya and I need your life totals to get low, outside of like a Heartless Hidetsugu, you know, this is a great card that gets me card advantage, but then also feeds my commander's ability. You know, if I'm looking at it from an Archangel Addison perspective, it's just card advantage, and that's about it.
Yeah,
So,
budget, cheap, card advantage.
Yep. What's your second?
So this also plays into that same kind of idea. Avicenna can get out very quick because she is fairly low costed, right? You can get her out. She can stick around because she gives herself indestructible. But sometimes you just you run out of cards. And if you don't have the right way to get them, you need it. Especially now with I have a fair amount. I have the ramp package that you could possibly have in here. So you do kind of, if you get a good draw, you do kind of slow down. So that's why I'm really glad that this card finally dropped in price a couple years ago. We're talking Mind's Eye. Card is sweet. So 5 colorless for an artifact. It's a rare. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card.
God, it must feel bad when you have to pay 5 mana to get it out and then pay 1 for each card draw. That shows how bad your colors are at drawing cards.
So, I mean, but this is how you do it, right? It's the most efficient way to do it. People are going to be drawing cards. You can pay for it. You can draw back up. This has come into a pinch a lot in this deck, or in decks like this that just suck at card draw. You know, you're out, your shit gets blown up, or your stuff gets blown up, and you're just out of options, and you have this, and you're like, all right, I'll just pay 3 mana and draw 3 cards, and then it just sits there for the rest of the game. So it's kind of weird. It's a weird card in the sense that it's kind of diminishing returns when you don't want it. There is a way with Addison that I've kind of built her where it can be a little draw go, because you're waiting to cast her, you're waiting to cast some of your other board wipes and maybe protect your stuff. And this does give you something to do with the mana and fill your hand back up. I remember this card.
Not really, because if you're saving up that mana to respond to your opponent, you can't really spend it when they draw a card because you're waiting, and then it's end of turn and you have nothing to spend your mana on. So it's not really a mana sink per se.
But it can be in the right. If you're the last time I played this, I was flush with mana. I had way more than I knew what to do with, and I was running out of cards. So in that situation, it's good. And I think I cast Avicenna 4 times or something absurd like that. So played in the right way, it can be a bit of a mana sink. Moreover, it's just again, in these colors, this is good card draw for 5. So just want to bring it up. I don't know if I have any other decks, maybe in 1 or 2 other ones, but want to get in while the getting in was good.
Cool. Well, my last one is a card that is a budget Stoneforge Mystic, but I actually think is a little bit better. Ooh. Stone Hewer Giant.
Yeah, the big boy.
$10 almost.
I know, it's crazy, right?
3 colorless, white, creature giant warrior, rare, 4/4 with vigilance. And here's why I think he's slightly better than Stoneforge. It's not as quick, but it does the extra thing that I think is great. But it's interesting with your deck on. I still think it should be kept in, but I actually want to cut some other effects that do similar things.
Sure, yeah. I think I know where you're getting at, and I'm going to be addressing that as well. So
colorless white, tap, search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle your library.
Right.
I counted it. You got 7 equipments.
7 equipments.
And out of those 7, really only 3 of them are something that you would really want to do this for,
right?
Because you got your Swiftfoot boots, you got your lightning greaves. Are you talking about something that has Animist in its name?
I am, yeah. So
okay, so that one is okay, but it's not something necessarily. If I'm already at 5 mana, don't know if I'm really going to pay that. I usually think of this one for one of your yeast cards, and then the 3 of your spice cards. It's good for that, and I think those are so powerful that it's worth keeping this in here, but I'll be cutting other cards in your deck and the capping that do a half of this effect, just because you don't have enough in here to really justify having the redundancy of the equipment tutor.
I was right, so I'm actually completely in agreement with you. I was right on the edge of actually cutting this, just because it is a little bit more expensive up front, but I think, and this used to have a lot bigger of a
equipment package?
Yes, yeah. So there was a Ceram in here for a while. That was kind of how it was going. I didn't really like that. Didn't really work out. But I do think that the equipments that they have in here some of them are very good. I think there's some more on the top end that would be a lot better to get, which I'll also get to in my bottle capping. But I think I also like that Stonehooer can attack and then equip himself with something and get in there.
Sure.
So it used to be Argentium Armor was a great one to pull, or what was that one, World Slayer that board wipes. I did that once and I was like, oh, I'm never doing that ever again. So that was a miserable game. So I think it's crazy this card's $10. He's never been printed, but Voltron and equipment is a big thing in EDH, and that's probably where he finds his home, and why there's so many of him. There's so few of him, and why he's so expensive.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I kept it in the deck, because if I'm going this Anya route, there's probably going to be at least one person I'm probably going to TKO with command damage. And so being able to do the 2 as Anya swings in, and maybe she has a 7 or a 10, and it's I'll take it. In EDH, people do misplays left, right, and center. So you know what? You forgot about it. Let's pay the 2, slap a XYZ thing on there, and possibly kill you out of nowhere. So
totally agree.
What is your last grain?
So we hinted at it. This card is just a freaking workhorse, and I also didn't know that it's also $6. So Sword of the Anime, or the Animist, if you will. So 2 colorless, a equipped creature gets +1/+1, which actually was completely relevant the last time I played this. Then whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Again, it's total workhorse card. This goes in, I would say, almost every Boros deck that needs to go get lands. That's going to be getting in the red zone. It's awesome. Great ramp. It's easy.
Wouldn't you argue that this goes in every deck that doesn't have green for ramp?
It would be a hard argument to say no. It's just the only thing I don't like about it from my perspective is that it's expensive. So, but if you cut the cost, yeah, sure, why not?
We're not talking mana crypt expensive. We're talking $5-6.
Right, but I think where this really shines is if you can get it early. It starts losing its luster later in the game. I think I failed
deck filtering.
I know, but
free shuffle effect.
But I'm sure there's someone who would make the argument that there's better 2-drops that have a little bit more effect late game than this one. I still like it a lot. Like I said, the +1/+1, especially if you're going to the red zone with Anya, might be enough to put you through. I slapped this on a Solemn Simulacrum and went in the red zone for 2 turns in a row, so that was awesome. Just a sweet card overall. It doesn't really feed into my specific category outside of the fact that you get lands to do more for your X spells and whatnot we'll get into. But overall, just love Sword of the Animist. Very glad I had a copy in here that I honestly forgot I even had.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely see how it would be good for your Archangel Addison type build. I mean, like you said, it's good for any Boros build, but especially Addison, because, and you know what? And the more that we talk about it, I think I do remember the last time you played this Boros deck, because I kept thinking in my head, why hasn't he played Addison? Because you didn't play her almost the entire game, except for maybe like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I do remember you getting in the red zone with sort of the Animist and stuff like that. And so, one of the things that I feel like an Archangel Addison deck wants to do is get up to maybe some of those hops cards where you have a lot of mana.
Exactly.
Dump it in, and then I still have the mana to get her out and protect my own stuff.
Yep.
So sort of the Animist definitely fits there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, any Boros, white, or even mono red deck, it probably goes in.
I completely agree. You'll have something to put it on, some goblin or some small creature to slap.
And the nice thing is they don't even have to deal damage. It's just attack.
It's on attack. Yeah, so it gets there. That's about all to say about Sword of the Animist.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the green build. Now we're going to head over to the board state and hot profile. I'm going to kick this one off with a great card. It has a home in a lot of decks. But once again, my whole thing with Anya is I need to get my opponent's life totals down as much as possible. So we're talking Pyrohemia.
Yeah!
One of yours?
Too. Yes, this card is like maybe the best card in the deck sometimes.
So good.
So absurd.
What would you rather have, Pyrohemia or Pestilence?
Well, they do the exact same thing.
But I thought Pestilence, was -1/-1 until end of turn?
It's the exact same card. It's just color shifted.
Oh, literally the exact same?
Yeah, literally the exact same card, except Pestilence is
right.
white. Which is funny because I've seen Pyrohemia played so many times. I think I've seen Pestilence played, like, not that often.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. I thought I had it in the deck for a minute. I don't know. I don't know why, but like I just see Pyrohemia get played all over the place.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I'm going to do the treatment to you now. I'm going to read the card, the CMC, and the type, and you got to read the text.
All right.
Pyrohemia, 2 colorless red enchantment, uncommon for $4.
It's absurd. Oh wait, hold on. There was some deck that this came out in. The Dinosaurs deck, because this triggers Enrage.
Oh, yeah.
That's why this skyrocketed in price. Yeah, because like you can make like a gazillion Polyraptors for all the mana you had. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. At the beginning of the end step, if no creatures are on the battlefield, sacrifice Pyrohemia. 1 red. Pyrohemia deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. So good. Stops token decks dead in their tracks. Reduces players' life total so that your Anya swings in big. Usually what I try to do if I can get up with that mana is you cast in Archangel Addison for all your white, and then you just immediately burn all your red that you can and burn out all the creatures and everything else. Your guys survive, life totals are lowered, and you're off to the races.
No, I think you're 100% on the mark. Avicenna works great because she has flash and gives your creatures indestructible, so it gets around Pyrohemia. Yep. It's great for Anya because I'm going to do the drips and drabs each person's turn. Yeah. I'm going to drain you for 2 to 3 each time, and then Anya resets to 4 toughness each time. Yes, I'll never kill any creatures with 4 toughness, but I'm going to kill everything lower than that, and I'm going to hit you guys on a rotation for at least, 3, 6, 9, 12?
Right. And
I'm going to get close, so someone's going to get half their life.
And even then, like if you do plop her down and she's a 7/7 or even bigger, then you're like, okay, I'll just do this for 9 each turn.
Yep.
And then she's going to be indestructible as well, and then you start getting the red zone. So it's a really, really strong card. Really, really
good. That was our first ones together. Synergy. What's your next one?
So this is one of my favorite cards in the deck. I wish it wasn't so expensive, which is pretty much my cattle call at this point.
Uh-oh. Is it a sorcery?
Yeah. Do you have to go? Wait, hold on. Do you have to go to the pulls? Call it, baby.
3, 2, 1. Council's Judgment.
Oh! This card is so good.
So the more we talk about this deck, the more it's flashing back to me because I remember that we tied again on this stupid card, and one of my things got we exiled a Harsh Mentor and then your Grim Grid, I think it was, right? It has Will of the Council starting with you. Each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes.
But the beauty of this is that it's a non-land permanent you don't control.
Yeah.
Not a target, not like, just an enchantment. It's just a non-land permanent. So it gets around hexproof and exile, so it gets around indestructible. It's bonkers. And the reason why this card is $12 is that this is like a premier removal in whatever constructed format this is legal in, vintage or legacy or whatever, because it's pretty much like 3 colorless and at least a 1-for-1. Because you're doing it one-on-one. Because you're doing it one-on-one, so you just vote for the card that you don't want.
Oh,
and then
that's right.
And then they're like, well, I can either just get rid of that one or I lose another one.
Yeah. So the kind of the where Tuck was kind of alluding to, where I see right through this, guys, whatever card they pick first, everyone should be voting on that card. Correct, because then it's just they paid 3 mana to get rid of one thing, and yes, it sucks for that person. But where people start to
as a collective, if you will.
Yes, but what ends up happening is whoever votes after the person that does this, if it's their permanent, they get super salty and they don't realize what's going to happen. And so then they vote for someone else's card, and then that person gets salty, and then they vote for someone else's card, and then just either a bunch of stuff gets exiled, or at least 2 things get exiled, like in our game. Because as soon as BigTuck said Harsh Mentor, I immediately said, okay, I'm going to vote for Harsh Mentor, because that's exactly. And then the Harsh Mentor player was like, well, I don't like that. I'll get rid of Grimgrin. And it's just like, son of a biscuit.
It's great. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? And again, it's like, Will of the Council cards are awesome. This one's super fun. It really affects the board state in a great way. It's exile, which is also insane. Obviously, if it was an instant, it'd be even better. But, what can you say about a 3 mana, pretty much get rid of anything on the board?
Yeah.
So, again, it's $12, which is kind of a lot for this sort of effect. I'm pretty sure I cracked one of these in Conspiracy when I was living in China. Or I got it some other way. But here we are. Fair point. But yeah, I love Council's Judgment. Never is disappointed when I pulled it out. And honestly, I don't even remember. I don't even know why I have it in this deck. It probably could go in a lot better one, but here we are.
Sounds good. Well, since we've basically matched up on everything, hopefully we can have a difference of opinion for the last card. Once again, trying to feed into Anya, we're talking Aurelius Fury.
Nice. Okay, great.
I
knew it. I knew you were either going to go Council's Judgment or this card, and I went Council's Judgment because I wanted to talk about it.
So Aurelius Fury is X and Boros, red-white. It's a mythic. It's also an instant, which is amazing. It deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. Here's the key thing I want to stop there. Most times X spells, when you can divide up the damage, make you pay like 1 additional colorless per each target. This doesn't. Yeah. And then it's not even done. Tap each creature dealt damage this way. So if you just need to get rid of some blockers, 1 to each of them, boom, all the blockers, the gates are down. Players dealt damage this way can't cast non-creature spells this turn. So, if you do this pre-combat, which is the smart way, in my opinion, to do it, you basically make the blue players have to react immediately if they want to bounce your board. And it gives you the information. Plus, there's cards like Aether Spouts that only bounce attacking creatures. So if you're about to one-shot someone with Anya, you do it pre-combat, and now they can't Aether Spout you, and you just kill them. They're dead. Yeah. Or you can also do it in a way to where, yes, you could possibly kill them, but let's just say they were at, I don't know, let's go 8 command damage. You've hit them twice. They're above 20. You could do Aurelius Fury to get them below 20, give you that additional +7 or the +3, and then maybe if someone else is close, you get them on the +3. You could possibly use that to spread it around, buff Anya multiple times by +3. She's indestructible. She's going and swinging. They can't do any type of path or swords or anything like that. It's just a workhorse. It's a great card.
Yeah. And again, that's on the offense. I think this also can be a very good defensive card. Like if you feel like someone's about to storm off, or if they're playing some sort of draw go deck and you need like one more turn just to get in and kill them, you can also do this at the beginning of their turn as an instant, at least force them to tap out. They might not be able to get their spells off, that sort of thing. You can do this, like you said, to multiple people to get their life below half potentially. It's just awesome. Like every time I've been able to play this card, it's done something. It's never been a dead draw. It's just a complete beast in this deck.
100% agree, man. Well, what is your last hops?
So I don't remember if we talked about this one before. I was trying to go with ones that we haven't, but this card does so much
Swords
in
to
this
Plowshares.
deck. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's right. Wrath of God. You got me. No, I actually want to talk about Boros Charm.
Sure.
So red and white for an instant. Choose one. Again, I'm a sucker for modular, as we always said. So deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn, or target creature gains double strike until end of turn. So the way I see it is that each one of these plays into exactly what we're looking to do, right? So for Anya, push them down below half, potentially, right? If they're sorting right, that's like that's arguably like the worst way that you could do it. In my opinion, I think that's easily the weakest on it, unless you're like stopping a planeswalker from ultimating.
But there's a better way to do it that you're forgetting. If that 4 damage would get them below half, the easiest thing is to just give Anya double strike.
Yeah.
And so you hit them once, you get them below 20, and now she's 7, and then you just hit them for 11.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So I think like that's a big
Hell
thing too.
yeah.
Like, hell yeah. It's what do they say? It's kicks wholesale ass. Is that
There we go. Yeah.
So anyways, I like it in the Avicenna too, because again, we're talking about like some board wipes and some other things. The giving indestructible is just pretty much like another version of Avicenna. It can also block in a pinch if you need to.
It's also a Boros staple.
Yeah, without a doubt, right? Like I was trying to think of this, and like if you're running these, I almost think borderline if you're running these colors in 2 or 3 colors, there's no reason not to have this, right? Like I've seen this do monster work in like vampires,
Kali of the Vast.
Absolutely, right? Like it's just really good. Everything is relevant. Again, the 4 damage I think is fine-ish, but actually this was played, and one of the reasons why it's expensive, it was also played and constructed some red white burn deck. That was a thing because it's like another copy of Lightning Helix pretty much.
Okay.
But it's awesome. Also $3, which is insane because I know this thing's been printed like 4 or 5 different times.
Well, we talk about Soul Ring. It gets printed 5 times every year.
And it just keeps going up. So
no, it's a great card, and I think this is one of those cards that if you guys did want to do your bring your own commander Boros deck, you can have this in, and you will never feel bad about what Boros commander Feather works great because target creature gains double strike, and it goes back to your hand, so you get it every turn. So it's great there. It does a lot.
It's a monster card. So wanted to bring it up here before I forgot that we might have done it already, but
don't worry,
it doesn't matter.
The memory will kick in, fade away, and or maybe go on to Teferi's Protection until next year, and you'll probably talk about it again.
Yeah,
well, that'll wrap up the hot profile, guys. Now we're gonna head over to how this deck wins and yeast. Tuck, how are you gonna win with Archangel Addison?
So ironically, I'm actually only going to be talking about 3 other potential swap commanders. Which makes sense. And I think the biggest one and the thing that outside of Anya, which we've kind of talked about in length, I think the other one that's really good, and I've talked about this before, I know I have, because I have 5 copies of it, is my gal, Aurelia the War Leader.
She's good.
It's just insanely good. So 2 colorless, red, white for a 3/4 legendary creature angel. It's a mythic. It's also creeping up to $8, which I think it used to be like 4. Flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever she attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. I literally run this in every deck that can.
Really?
Yes. It's because like think about it.
Bad Super Friends.
Oh, fair point. Okay, so 1, that doesn't matter.
Nailed it. Blasted.
Oh, blasted. Also, my deck's better than me, which is funny. But, like, I was looking at, like, Saskia, it's incredible. Queen Marchesa, it's incredible. This deck, it's incredible. I just love this card. Like, I think that she can be a very fine commander on her own, minus the fact that she costs an arm and a leg to cast.
Yeah.
And she's gotta get killed immediately. Like, anyone that lets this sit around for more than 1 turn is probably kind of a fool. In my opinion, she pairs well with everything else. I just think she's incredible. Definitely a Boros standard. I think in these colors, she's a staple unless you're like running Feather? Do you have her in there?
Yeah,
no,
you got her in Feather. No, you got her in
do?
Feather. Yeah,
You do?
well, you
Yeah.
got to think about it. A lot of the cantrippy things is creature gets +2/+0 till end of turn. Well,
Right.
that's extra attack. So now that 1 mana spell for +2 is now +4.
4, right. So I don't know. What do you? I mean, I don't know how much more there is to say.
Yeah, it's definitely great. It's one that if I was building this around Anya, I would definitely leave in. It's not one of the ones that I'm talking about, but for sure, you slap her down, and it's like, okay, even if no one's below 20, like we just talked about with Boros Charm, I hit you for 4, now you're below 20. Oh wait, now I'm at 7. Now I'm going to hit you again.
Right.
And she's going to be swinging in Aurelia, so who knows? You might get someone else down below half.
Yeah.
So now maybe it's 4, then 11 is the next, or 10 the next time I'm hitting you. So I think it does just a whole lot of stuff. And I love that, I know you don't have it, but I do love that they printed her in the Boros deck, because I got that new sweet Boros promo.
Yep. I got one of them. I don't remember what deck it's in.
Oh, okay.
But I did get that promo, and it looks sick.
Well, I'm going to go a little out of order since you went ahead and went with a potential commander. I'm also going to go with a potential commander because I only did one. And I'm pretty sure you have her on your list as well. We're talking basically Aurelia, but you do it in one combat. Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight.
She's on the list. She is insane.
Yeah, and as we talked about Aurelia being expensive, Gisella's just that much more expensive.
Yeah. It's so bad. Like, it's so hard, man. 7 mana.
Yeah, 4 colorless, red, white, mythic 5/5, legendary creature angel, flying first strike. But I think it justifies why it's the 1 extra mana because of this, guys. So this effect is basically Aurelia's double attack without the attack triggers. If a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, that source would deal double that damage to that player or permanent instead. The thing I love about that in an Anya build is it's dealing double command damage. Sometimes it'll say, hey, it's going to deal that much and then add in 2 additional, or which wouldn't count for the command damage. But here's why it costs the 1 extra. If a source would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent half that damage rounded up. Pretty darn good.
Pretty good. And again, like we talked about, this also works in Avicenna too, because you're doing a lot of like pyrrhemia, you're doing your earthquake effects, that sort of stuff.
Well, pyrrhemia doesn't really work.
Pyrrhemia is a bad example.
Yeah.
But like earthquake, taking half damage to your creatures, which I guess you wouldn't even have because they're flying, but there's another one here we didn't talk about.
It's okay, eventually you'll get to a good example.
Aurelius
Fury. But you choose that. But you choose those targets, so that just seems dumb.
Yeah, I was just
Blasphemous Act. There we go.
Yeah, there you are. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Blasphemous Act, those sort of things. I mean, it just does insane amounts of work. Dealing the double damage off those things too will help Anya go down. It'll help clear the way for Avicenna. I mean, this is the card where with that Giants deck, I think I slipped by 1 game and then it went down to 1 last game, and I just swapped her in as a commander, and since they're all precons, I just waited, then played her, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna swing in for 10 commander damage.
Yep.
Anybody? Anything? No? All right. And then I won $25 off of it. So
there you go.
Again, I think just because she's so prohibitively expensive and she doesn't do a lot on her own, I think she's one of the weaker options for the swap commander.
I agree.
If you catch my drift there, but
I catch your drift, homie.
Oh, I catch it. But again, it's just she's like the definition of a yeast card, because as soon as she comes down, the game is warped. And people are going to start scrambling for answers because they can see the writing on the wall immediately.
Yeah, and actually, the reason I like Gisela and Aurelia in the 99 and not in the command zone is because when you have commanders like these that are prohibitively mana expensive, but then also, like BigTuck just used a great way to say it, when they hit the battlefield and resolve, they warp the game completely. Yeah. When they're in your command zone, people are always eyeballing how much mana you got. How many mana rocks do you have? Does he have a smothering tithe? What turn can that come down? Okay, if that comes down, what else do they have that can beat wholesale ass? As CCO Nation likes to say. So the reason I like it in the 99 is because unless someone's played some weird enchantment where you're what's the one where you play with your hand revealed?
Telepathy, I think?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So unless someone's playing a weird telepathy card because they're trying to play, guess what's in your hand tribal.
Yeah, or they're playing Send Triplets or something weird like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So it's great because then it's like no one's really stressing about Boros having 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. Mm-hmm. You stress when the mono blue player has it because Expropriate's coming down your throat hole real quick. But in Boros, no one's really scared. So then it could just be like, okay, I think now's the time, Mortal Kombat, play Gisela, and then it's like, oh, I already used my responses on that Zozu the Punisher because Dan was just melting my life total. Or, you know what, Mr. Combo had his Grimgrin out there and was destroying stuff. I wish I would have saved it, but it's like, how could you have known?
Well, and again, like, it's like, so they kill your Aurelia, right? Like, okay, next turn I play Gisela. Then they're like, well, I already used all my removal, so I can't do anything now, right?
Yep.
And I think that's like, if you can, with this deck especially, if you can like survive like through the mid to, especially with Avicen, if you can do something and cast Avicen to reap the benefits out of it, that's like the ultimate way that you can go around it. But yeah, Gisela, when she comes down, it's just backbreaking.
Yep.
In every sense of the word.
Well, I think you have one more. So what is your last one?
And we've talked about him before, and this is Is this yours too?
Nope.
Okay. So
wasn't this an OG commander? Didn't he used to pilot this deck?
This used to be the OG commander, but then it turns out he doesn't do much unless you have the devotion. So we're talking Ownoros, God of Victory. So 2 colorless, white, red.
Another thing, if you get your secret layer gods, you could swap in a cool promo.
I can. Yeah, if those ever come, who knows? So also sitting at $7, which is, I think he used to be cheaper, but I don't know. Anyways. Legendary enchantment creature god, indestructible, 7/4. As long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Ownoros isn't a creature. Creatures you control have menace. Prevent all damage to be dealt to attacking creatures you control. So, you can make things indestructible with Avicen. Then she can get in and no one can block unless they have flyers. It's just completely bonkers. This was my commander when I was trying to do more token-based stuff. That did not work because it sucked when you had your commander out, a bunch of tokens, and then someone just board wipes and you're left with a commander that you can't do anything with. We have talked about it in the past, just like a monster thing. I mean, I think like the best analogy and best description we had earlier is like if you had an enchantment that did this for 4, then you would run that all the time. And now you have something that could potentially turn into a creature. I think with the commanders that we've chosen, it's more likely that it will get there because it'll get to 4 just with either one of them, right? And granted, that's not 7, but you might have a couple enchantments or one of the other big gals in the deck to come down and turn him in. And now he's starting to swing in. He's dealing damage. Just overall, just an incredible pull. Incredible pull for Boros.
Here's the thing. I love Iros. I think it's a great card. I'm not cutting it, my bottle capping, but I do want to make a point. You only have 15 creatures in the deck.
Yes.
Out of these 15 creatures, 1, including Iros, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Only 8 of them actually do anything. No, only 8 of them actually do stuff when they swing, like enough power-wise. Because, I mean, you got, like, Sad Robot, Mother of Ruins, Court Photographer. Right. No, who really cares if you swing in for 1 or 2 with those guys?
Yeah, I agree.
So, Iros, I do believe in the current build, either with my Anya or your Archangel Addison, is expendable for something else. So let's just say you had a Brawl deck and you open up a Smothering Tithe. I'd actually probably do an Iros Smothering Tithe swap. I think that would...
I already got one of those in here, actually.
You do?
Yeah, it's under the green.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Never mind.
Here, I got one for you. A land tax Iros swap.
There you go.
Yeah, I would take that any day.
Yeah, or Weathered Wayfarer, something like that. Yeah. I just think Iros out of your big stuff does the least amount for the deck. Because you are right. I think Iros, I think I have it in my Feather deck because I do have like 30% token stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that's just because you have all the, what's that mechanic? Heroic.
Yeah, right.
Heroic's such a big thing with Feather, but I mean, it's still a great card.
And it's also weird too because like when you look at it, like if you're looking at this deck, it really hinges on like 5 or 6 creatures, right?
Yep.
And like those are the ones that you need to get out. And again, like if you're not going wide, then Oros sometimes doesn't really do much, right? It doesn't draw you cards. It doesn't help you cycle anything. It doesn't put you ahead on mana. But I mean, it's totally like the. When I've gotten this out and been able to swing with it, it's just like brutal, right? But again, like Magic Christmas Land, all that other stuff. There's been other times where I have them in hand. I'm like, I guess I'll play them and then just wait patiently to draw a card that I can actually do something with.
Sure.
Well, I think that's why when I was building him, he didn't work as a commander. Any way you cut it, he needs to do something a little bit more probably. So I agree. He's probably potentially cuttable depending on what we look at, but. Like I said, when he's done work, he's done work.
Sure. Well, I have 2 more Ys cards. The first one is a great card for an Anya deck because I do think command damage will be prevalent with her. But it's a very common card. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. We're talking Rogue's Passage. Land, and here's the thing, BigTuck loves his modular stuff where he can do more than one thing. So this is just a non-basic land, taps for a colorless mana, but then also you can pay 4 into it and tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So you know what? You give Anya unblockable, and even if you're just getting in for the 4, great. But I would guess by the time you paid 5 for Anya, and then you can also just willy-nilly pay 4 into Rogue's Passage and have, assuming you have no other plays, and it's probably because you're down to 2 cards in hand, 3 cards. She's probably at least a 7/7, maybe a 10/10 because it's later in the game. So being able to give your 10/10 commander unblockable seems great.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it doesn't come into play tapped, so you can always use it for the mana for something else. Just a bonkers card overall. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, well, all your stuff has flying, so what do you care about unblockable? It's like, no, that matters. Like, big
No, absolutely. Especially in our meta. I mean, think about it. How much have flying Thopters or flying fairies all over the place?
It's lousy with them. Yeah. So, again, like... It does feel bad when you have like your big old angels swinging in. They're just getting chump blocked by elves that have reach. You know what I mean? So having this as a backup is always good. It's an outstanding card, left, right, center. Like I said, gives you the mana, gives you an amazing ability on it with real no drawback.
Yep.
Hard to beat.
Yep. No, definitely. All right. And I wanted to go out on what you call a banger for my last Ys. It's one that we talked about religiously for the first 2-3 months of this podcast. We're bringing back Grafted Exoskeleton.
Don't you do it.
Yeah.
Best card? One of the best cards in the deck? Question mark?
Absolutely. Especially, once again, so let me read through the card and I'll kind of go through my thought process. And this is... I don't even think Magical Christmas Land, to be honest. Grafted Exoskeleton, if you guys are new to the podcast, it's a 4 colorless artifact equipment, uncommon, $2.50, so not crazy, but not cheap. Yep. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has Infect. And if you guys are not familiar with Infect, if a creature deals Infect damage to a player, they do not lose life, they get Infect counters. And once they have 10, they just automatically lose the game. Whenever Grafted Exoskeleton becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. So let's just say someone disenchants Grafted Exoskeleton while it's attached to a creature. You don't just lose Grafted Exoskeleton, you also have to sack the creature. And it has an equip cost of 2. So with me kind of focused in on Anya, reducing people's life totals, getting in for damage, and we talked about it earlier, that's Stone Hewer Giant. You got to think about it. You got 99 cards in your stack. I don't think it's Magical Christmas Land to assume that the odds of you having your Stone Hewer Giant but not the Grafted Exoskeleton, I think that's actually pretty fair. Because, I mean, we're talking 2 cards out of 99. So you swing in with Anya, maybe she's already a 7, and someone's just like, look, I'm going to take it. Okay, well, I can pay 2 with the Stone Hewer Giant, tutor, go get Grafted Exoskeleton, throw it on Anya, now you're getting hit for 9 Infect. Right. That's pretty brutal.
I mean, and if you think about this too, like, okay, so let's say if 2 opponents have less than their starting life total, right? She's at a 10. Then you just go tutor this. You're like, all right, I'm gonna kill the one who's not their starting life total, and then I'll come and eat you 2 guys for scraps and for dessert after this. Yeah,
I'll almost do a nom.
Nomming it up. And also, if you guys are interested, I still have 8 copies of this from the Tice box. Drink, friend of the show. This won me the game the last time I played it. It's won me the game before. Some people will say it's cheap. Some people will say it's lazy. I'll tell them to go suck it.
Oh, that's funny because you always call me cheap and lazy when I do stuff you don't like.
Listen. You giveth and you taketh away. You have to roll with the punches, and as you get dealt them. So, it's just really good. It's really good. And Avicenna for hitting down, it turns her into a 2-turn clock. What is there to say about grafted exoskeleton that we haven't already said 19 times? But to be fair, it has been a minute since we pulled this one out. So
yeah, actually, I think it's just been a minute since we've had it in a deck we've talked about.
Very true.
Which is a little odd considering we were on a heater to where it's like every other week we were talking about it.
It came up over and over and over again. We're like, oh, here it is again.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the yeast package. Now let's head over to the spicy meatball and the spice package. I've been talking for a hot minute, so BigTuck, we're going to go a little out of order. Why don't you tell us about your spice card?
Sure. So this is one I put in recently, and I like the idea of it. I have no idea if it actually works or not.
I could probably guess which one you're doing. Is it an enchantment?
It's an enchantment.
Okay. I thought
Are you doing it too or no?
It's not mine. It's just looking at it, I was like, God, what could he have just randomly added in?
What did he pull out? Well, the other thing that sucks is
what did he pull out of his rear?
There's only 2 in here that aren't directly related to the other ones, right? So it's also kind of hard. But I'm talking about Legion's Initiative. So this is a mythic from Dragon's Maze. For Boros, that is a red and a white. It's an enchantment. Red creatures you control get +1/+0. White creatures you control get +0/+1. And then this last ability is why I kind of have it in for my Archangel, is that you can do for Boros, and exile all creatures you control at the beginning of the next combat phase. Return those cards to the battlefield under those owner's control, and they gain haste until end of turn. So I like this a lot on paper. I like the fact that it flickers out Avicenna, especially if she's been flipped somehow, which probably won't happen very often, like I made mention, because we only have a handful of non-angel creatures. It's a good way to get her back on the indestructible side. It's a good way to fog the board if it's yours. The only thing that sucks about it, and one of the reasons why I don't know if this card is actually going to work, is it says at the beginning of the next combat. Not your next combat, just the next combat, right? So, like, if you do this in response to someone attacking you or doing a board wipe in their first main phase, you exile everything you have, and then bring them back at that combat and they have haste. So I have not played around with this enough to know if it's any good. I like the fact that it pumps. I like the fact that it would pump your Anya both ways.
Sure.
So I kind of like it. I kind of like her in there, but I don't have. I put this in recently, and I have not had any. I have no data to work with this whatsoever.
So I'll give you the only reason I'm fine with it staying in the deck. Only because you and I have so many decks. Mm-hmm. This is basically a budget to Fairy's Protection.
Yes, for sure.
And so it basically costs you, in theory, 4 total mana to do it over the course of however long. But it's going to protect your creatures, which is the base of your board. I mean, you got some enchantments and artifacts that would be kind of sad if you lost them. But, that's really why I look at it, because I don't think the +1 O and O+1 is relevant, because you're not doing tokens really, outside of, we didn't talk about it, Assemble the Legion.
Yes.
So if you went back to your token build, I'd say great, this is a slam dunk card.
This would be really good in that.
But I would say, if you were going to rate your decks, and I've kind of started doing this as we do the podcast, out of the bottle capping and out of cards we've done, actually I need to probably cut these cards and find other stuff. I would say you would put this and then Teferi's Protection right next to it, and just be like, whenever I pull one in a mystery booster, whenever I get one as a gift, whenever I decide to trade some stuff in and I can get a good deal, that would be the immediate swap that I would do.
Or if I go down the proxy route, because I actually ripped one out of my mystery booster, so we could start doing that too.
Yeah.
But again, it's a slippery slope for BigTuck. So anyways,
down the rabbit hole.
I like it. I think it's really good in theory. I have no idea what it's like in paper. I have no idea what it's like on the wild. I mean, it could come out to that damage maybe matters, probably doesn't. It could save my creatures, and then I get the clap back, so we'll see, I suppose. But I just played this not too recently, so I guess we won't see for another 2 to 4 months.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it this way. If it happens in the pre-combat and you're kind of worried about, like, that being, like, the big deal, imagine someone tries to, they top deck Cyclonic Rift, they want to go in for the kill, cast it main phase, I exile my stuff, and then before you can even hit me, all my stuff comes back, and now I got blockers again.
Great point.
So
and again, like you said, if they're running an actual board wipe, they're going to lose their creatures anyway. So you just get yours back no matter what.
Yep.
So yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I saw this in some list. It's a couple bucks, so I guess I got lucky and had some spare cash lying around. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm open to it getting cut. I do like the fact it's only a 2-drop. So. Only time will tell. So what are the ones that you got out of here?
So the one I wanted to talk about, because obviously I've been really focused around Anya, which is command damage. And anytime you have a commander that's command damage centric, people are going to try to remove it as much as you can. She's already cost 5. So 5,
right.
Fine. 7, bit of a stretch. 9, oh my God, that's going to spend all the mana. And then once you're to 11 and above, it's like, well, I'm probably never going to cast her again. So I wanted to talk about a card that allow you to get her back. We're talking Bruna the Fading Light.
Ooh, yeah.
Great card in general because she has a meld mechanic. But the reason I like her is because she will pull Anya, because she is an angel, out of the graveyard and bring it back to the battlefield. So Bruna the Fading Light, 5 colorless, white, and that's why I made the big distinction of 9, fine, but once you're to 11, Bruna only costs 7. She's a legendary creature, Angel Horror, 5/7. When you cast Bruna, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So when it's late game and Anya costs 11 plus, cast Bruna for 7, you get Anya right back to the battlefield and you're good to go. And she has flying and vigilance. Plus, she does have a sweet mechanic that if you get Gisela the Broken Blade out, she transforms into
some horrid eldritch abomination.
Yeah, basically Brazella, Voice of Nightmares.
Which you have seen that happen before in real life, right?
I've done it.
You've done it?
Yeah.
Sick.
I know. And hold on, guys. I'm going to pull up Brazella. So Brazella, Voice of Nightmares. Legendary creature, Eldrazi Angel, 9/10. It has flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells with CMC 3 or less. So, once again, in a Anya build, I look at this 2 ways. 1, I get Anya back for 7 to the battlefield when it's been late game. And then the magical Christmas land is maybe I get a 9/10 with all these abilities and you guys can't cast CMC 3 or less. It's basically like a fair, crappier version of Gaddock Teague.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's a great card. It is 7 mana, so it is very expensive to cast, but she is basically just in here as a reanimate effect in these colors.
And like I said, I try to keep it to more of like an angel sub-theme, so most of my creatures are angels as well. These 2 are very good. She'll be able to get back most of the creatures, like we talked about, like Aurelius, Giselas, Anyas, or Avicennas, depending on which way you're playing the deck. Just a lot of value there. And again, it's a little top heavy, but if you can flip it, it's like the stuff of legends. So
yeah, absolutely.
I have yet to do it, so we'll see what happens.
Maybe in the future. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the spice package. Now we're going to go over to the bottle capping, and as a reminder, these are going to be BigTuck's and I's cuts and recommendations to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a personal recommendation. The only restriction is no mana, only lands. Tuck, with this being your deck, why don't you start us off? What are you going to cut? What are you going to add for under $5?
So this is right on the cusp of $5, but I did find a copy on eBay that was just under it. So it's right there. I'm actually going to cut Handweaver Garrison. Two colors in red for a 2/3 human soldier. Whenever it attacks, put 2/1/1 red human creature tokens on the battlefield tapped.
But don't you have the land?
I do, but again, like...
Magical Christmas land.
Magical Christmas land. I do not care about tokens anymore. I have no token support. This is just gonna get shut blocked and killed. This does nothing for me. Again, like I think I had some grandiose idea of doing like all the meld stuff in here a million years ago, and this is just definitely a skeleton from that closet. So instead, I'm gonna bring back something that I think will help on both. I think this will actually help with both builds when we're looking at it. So let me pull it up, make sure I got the right one. So we're talking Lyra Dawnbringer. She's a legendary creature, 3 colorless, white for 5/5, flying, first strike, lifelink. And then other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. So what has happened to me before when I'm running this is that I am burning myself with my earthquakes. I'm burning myself with my pyrohemia. And you're like, I'm just trying to struggle to get back into this game and keep my life total high enough where I'm not going to get one-shotted from someone. The fact that, like I said, I'm trying to make this more angel sub-tribal.
Sure.
The fact that when my things are swinging in, I'm getting that lifelink back is huge. And she herself is no snuff for those abilities for 5. Kind of like a utility creature. gives the +1/+1 to my commander, so that when whichever one it is, when I'm swinging in, it's dealing like that much more drips and drabs of damage. But mostly it's about giving that lifelink. Just does a lot. Can attack, can block well. Still a flyer, still a first striker. Seems like it helps a lot in this deck because eventually your commander's gonna get killed, and you need to swing in with something.
You know what? That's fair. I didn't really think about the fact that you're probably burning yourself out quite a bit.
Yeah, and especially if you're like, this is my third X-Spell I've cast for 5. It's 15 damage to me, and then like drips and drabs from Prohemia. Like, I mean, that last game that I played her, I think I had 5 life left or something like that, with no real way to get it back. So that's kind of how I view her into it.
Sure.
And again, like I said, with a little bit of the Angel sub-theme dashed in just for funsies, fits that build as well.
No, that's fair. Well, the first one that I'm going to cut is going to be, well, like I talked about, I don't think you have enough equipment stuff to make sense. So we're going to cut Steel Shaper's Gift. Single white, sorcery, search your library for an equipment card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. The reason I'm okay keeping the Stone Hewer Giant is because it goes to the battlefield and equips. So I just think that's better. So
and also, just for not for nothing, Steel Shaper's Gift is like $10 almost now. $9, which is insane. But again, it's a tutor. So what are you thinking about swapping out for?
So I'm going to swap it out because I need to reduce my opponent's life totals fast and in a hurry. But like you just said, I don't want to necessarily just be burning myself all the time. So for 25 cents, we're going to add in a Herald of the Host. 3 colorless, white creature angel, 4/4, flying vigilance, and it has Myriad.
Oh, nice.
So whenever this creature attacks, for each opponent other than defending player, you put a token that's a copy of Herald of the Host on the battlefield tapped and attacking that player, or planeswalker he or she controls, and then exile the tokens at end of combat. So instead of just having to be loaded up on 1, I pay 5, and I'm potentially making 2 other copies that are going at people. Could be bigger. The only time this would ever be a quote-unquote feel bad is if it's a 1v1 late game, because then it's just a 1-mana worse Sarah Angel. But I think 80% of the time and 80% of your cases, this is going to be the thing that helps just not necessarily even drips and drabs, but chunks amongst your opponents.
Like it. I also, to your point, Sarah Angel is the same mana cost. So it's literally
there we go.
It's literally just a better Sarah Angel. So
yeah.
Dig it big time.
What is your under 50?
So I am also going to cut another Planeswalker. I'm going to cut Chandra Flamecaller.
I'm cutting her for my personal recommendation.
Are you?
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
She is like another just dead card from a previous build. So 4 colorless, red. Planeswalker Chandra. She comes in for 4 loyalty. She's a mythic. +1, put 2 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. 0, discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards +1. And then -X, she deals X damage to each creature. It's overcosted. It's good when it was in a token build. And I was like, I had Annoyed Procession out. So you're coming in for her +1 will come in for, what's that? 12. Then all the other rigmarole that comes into it. I just don't really think it has like a good fit in this deck anymore.
I mean, she fits better than Elspeth Sun's Champion. You should just cut that garbage card.
Elspeth Sun's Champion. But this card, the difference is Chandra Flamecaller cannot win the game on its own, where Elspeth decidedly can. So I'm going to cut that for a newer-ish card that I'm glad I waited to buy because it's dropped in price. So I'm going to get Sword of Sinew and Steel.
Oh, yeah.
So 3 colorless for an artifact. It's a mythic. Coming out of Modern Horizons, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and red. The black is okay because there's like demons and flyers, but the red is really important. Again, I'm continuing. If I'm playing this Avicenna, I'm playing more into board wipes, into dealing damage across the board as much as I can. So if I can prevent a Blasphemous Act or some Pyrohemia on my main person, that's big. Then whenever it deals combat damage, destroy up to 1 target Planeswalker and 1 target artifact.
Yeah,
that's combat damage to a player. So for me, and also also it's only $550. So again, this is like the $50 budget. But for a sword, if we're going to start going into more equipment, which I think this deck definitely needs, I think this one fills in a couple slots. The protection for black and red is critical. Also, black has a fair amount of removal. Does that. The proliferate from the other sword doesn't do much. So from a budget perspective, it does a lot. Destroying artifacts and planeswalkers is kind of the cherry on top for me. But mostly it's just to give that more damage, give it protection from red, give it protection from my own things that might be able to damage it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fine. I just don't know how much you want to go into the, at least, from my perspective, when I'm looking at Anya, I don't know how much I want to do equipment Voltron.
Equipment stuff, yeah.
Just because I do that with my Bird of Prey deck, and sometimes the equipment can be a little slow because it's pay the mana, then move to equip.
Yeah.
It's not so much.
And then in response, they blow it up, so you just wasted 3 mana, right? Or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. But, I think it has good foundation. I would just maybe, if you want to go more into the equipment side, you may have to invest into a Sigarda's Aid.
Yes, which I think I either have. I had a Sigarda's Aid in here. I had a Pure Steel Paladin. I had the Saram.
Okay.
So I have all these, I think either lying around or something. But so yeah, it's that's kind of the thing that I've kind of thought back into is cut down on some other stuff and maybe go Voltron, but that kind of betrays the idea of what I'm trying to do with Archangel Addison.
Sure.
Any way you cut it, like I said, this deck's going to live and die in the red zone. So being able to get the protection and also be able to do some more damage, protecting it for myself, seems to at least work out a little bit.
No, that's fair. Well, I'll go ahead and just move mine around. Cutting Chandra Flamecaller for my under 50. But then I'm going to add a card that, once again, I think this really fills in what Anya wants to do. And this card's a beater. We're talking Rampaging Ferocidon.
Oh, nice.
2 colorless red, creature dinosaur, 3/3. It has menace, which is irrelevant. Players can't gain life. Kind of a big deal. But whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Rampaging Ferocidon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. The whole thing that I want to do is I want people's life totals to go down below half, so then that way I can come in with my commander that's beefed up, and honestly at that point it doesn't matter because you're at 20, it takes 21 command damage. So I'm just going to kill you off normal damage, but still she gets bigger and more difficult to deal with. The thing I like about this is in our meta, tokens are really rampant right now.
I was just going to say, the thing you like about this is that it hates token decks.
Yeah, well, because you got to think about it. I think there's probably, I want to say every single person in our play group has at least one token deck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you got to think about it. You and I are the only ones that have an excessive amount of decks. So we see the other people's token decks more frequently, maybe once on a Sunday or every other Sunday. It's not like you and I, to where you haven't seen Garrett in probably 2 months.
Probably not. And again, we also have people who play rats and other low to the ground creatures, right? That are just
suck at marketing Ross.
And Will, right? Doesn't he have a rat stack?
Oh yeah, that's right. Does he even still have it around?
I have no idea.
But yeah, no, I think Rampaging Ferocidon is still only 3 mana. It's not going to necessarily break the bank, but I think if you do an Anya build, this is something when you get it down turn 3 and people are wanting to do their mana dorks and, I'm playing my Psy Thopter deck, you're naturally just going to keep taking 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. So yeah, I think it'd be good.
And we just talked about this too. This would we've off cast. We were talking about what decks we still need to do because I think we're very close now in terms of our path to 32. But we talked about how I don't want to do my Brea deck, and if this came out, I just die.
Yep.
Because it's going to generate infinite tokens, right, and just cycle through that. So you're dead there. Friend of the show, Single Aaron. This sucks against his fairy deck that he's just gonna be pooping those things out. So yeah, I like it. The only thing I don't like is that it doesn't do. I wish it was it was an enchantment or something besides just a dinosaur, right? But I mean,
but we've also talked about it to where this isn't so central to your deck to where if it gets blown up, you lose.
Yeah, right.
But that is.
For sure.
But wouldn't you rather them waste a murder on Rampaging Ferocidon than your Gisela or your Aurelius?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So you pay 3 mana. Worst case, they lose a card and lose a removal spell, which usually most people only have 2 to 4 in a deck. Yeah. Or best case. Maybe it does, kind of like my Shirai deck, to where some of those like little guys just drip and drab everyone, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, Rampaging Ferocidon has done something like, 15 damage across the table, 20 damage, and you're not worried about taking the damage from him because you don't play a lot of creatures.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Totally agree.
What's your personal cut and add?
All right, this one's got to get a little crazy. It's about to get a little crazy. So I'm actually going to cut True Conviction.
What?
It's so expensive. So 3 colorless and triple white for creatures you control have double strike and lifelink. That, I think, we kind of talked about this. This really is only going to have a handful of creatures out at any time, right? So I don't think you get the mileage out of it than you would than just like a equipment that you can move from one to the other. I think Gisela and Aurelia, which we talked about, both kind of do this already. This has been a dead card for me before. You can't attack with it. It's expensive. We're going to lower the curve down.
You can't attack with an equipment, so that's like a moot point.
Agreed, but you can attack with like a Lyra that gives everything lifelink. So this card used to do work for me in this. It's similar in the sense of like Oros, of like if I can land it and maybe have a creature or 2 out, it's great. It's awesome in go wide strategies. Not what I'm trying to do with this deck. So instead, we're gonna pony up.
Oh god, are you doing that horse?
No, I wish. But there is a horse on this. We are talking Rolling Earthquake. This card's hysterical. X colorless red sorcery. Rolling Earthquake deals X damage to each creature without horsemanship and each player. So it's just another copy of Earthquake in it, and I was really struggling to find a card that was over $10 that was not land tax or Weathered Wayfarer or one of those other ones. So again, with Aurelia, there's a few more cards that I had in my wish list that I was going to try to get into this, of like preventing non-combat damage to my board and dealing combat damage across the other board. So if I wanted to build that way, this would be another good option to go in with Earthquake because it can prevent the damage against my people. Maybe have it with
your people.
You people, my angels, my beautiful angels. Like I said, it's kind of more of a fun thing. I think it's also hysterical that this card's $10 and it's just a worse Earthquake.
Is it a piece of Magic history?
It is not, unfortunately, because it was printed in frickin' Portal 3 Kingdoms for starters. That one's $50, if you can imagine. So stupid. So anyways, like I said, if I was going to try to narrow down into the Avicenna build, it would really be more centered around this. Preventing non-combat damage to your creatures, and then these like board wipes that deal damage out. This also is a way that you can sort of have another Earthquake in the deck. It's a good way to stop tokens if you only have to do it for 2 or 3. Deals damage to players, so that reduces down 2.
And it gives you the choice to put in Lu Bu, Master at Arms, Horsemanship Legend.
Hell yeah. Duh. So, in reality, what I meant to say is I'm switching this whole deck over to be horsemanship based. But yeah, so anyways, like I said, I was kind of struggling for a last card to put in. I've always wanted a copy of this. I don't have one, so why not?
Fair enough.
All right. What do you got, my man?
To close this out, I'm going to cut Outpost Siege. Just being honest, it doesn't really fit an Anya build. Yeah. So if you guys are not familiar, Outpost Siege, 3 colorless red, enchantment rare. When it ATBs, choose cons or dragons. Cons, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library until industry may play it. Just standard red card draw.
Standard red card draw.
I'm assuming this was more of your token build, possibly, with dragons. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Yeah, that doesn't seem relevant.
I mostly had it, I did have it for like a backup on tokens, but mostly it's for that first ability, just to get that red pseudo card draw in this.
Yeah, and I think you have enough of that red pseudo card draw.
Sure.
And honestly, for 4 mana, that's not, I mean, you could just go with
the other Chandra.
Yeah. There you go.
And then you can ping people if you wanted to. So, yeah, I agree. I don't know. I can't even remember the last time I saw this in this deck, but I think there has been more card draw printed, even with things like Thrill of Possibility
Sure.
better than that. Again, it just sucks too, because like there's been times where, not in this deck in particular, but like I exile something that I really want. Like turn 5, I exile an Aurelia, and I'm like one short of playing it. I'm like, oh, that feels awesome. So really excited about that. But what are you trying to slot in for it?
So I actually think you'll like this more than the Angel that you wanted to add.
Okay.
It's a card I hadn't heard of. It's coming out at a whopping $1.49.
What?
3 colorless, white, Purity. Creature Elemental Incarnation, rare, 6/6, flying. If a spell or ability would deal damage to you, prevent that damage. You gain life equal to damage prevented this way.
Whoa.
If Purity is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So I think this does a few different things for you. We always talk about on curve, 6 mana for a flying 6/6. That's on
Perfect.
curve.
Why not?
I like the put into a graveyard from anywhere, because even if someone destroys it, it just gets shuffled back into your library.
Right.
Or one thing that's become very prevalent in our play group, mill. This gives you an out on a mill. But I think the bigger thing, you made a good point. You have a lot of X stuff that deals damage to you. Well, it doesn't even have to be a spell or ability you control. Just any spell or ability would deal damage, prevent it, and then you gain life equal to that damage.
Yeah.
So you know what? That Pyrohemia that you were paying 3 on, so Anya wouldn't die. I'll pay 3, but I'm also gaining 3.
Right,
so
exactly.
on a rotation, I'm gaining 9 to 12.
It just turns into giving you a life. I like it. Yeah, I like the fact that it's on curve. I like the fact that it's flying. You could start suiting it up if you needed to and start blowing stuff up or dealing damage. I like it a lot, to be honest. And again, I think with even if we lean heavier into, I think both Anya and Avicenna both like those dealing damage to everybody, right? So I think this would actually work very well in either one of those builds. And again, for $1.50, like, why not, right? You get it. You either trade it away to someone, or it fits this deck great and you're happy, or you figure out where else to put it.
Well, and your whole Avicenna thing is kind of doing damage across everyone. And so, and I think the kind of cool thing that this card can do is, best case scenario, you're able to dump in your X mana, flash an Avicenna, it doesn't matter, Purity lives.
Right.
Worst case scenario, you need to do your X spell. You still do it, and you still prevent the damage to you, and you still gain that life, and then this just gets shuffled back in.
Yeah, and then you can get back.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes maybe your deck, once again, going back to my memory, that's now becoming less foggy, and has more, I can't think of another word.
I like
it. But I almost feel like sometimes you didn't cast Avicenna because it was just like, man, that doesn't really do anything, but I'm still going to lose this creature. Is it really worth it to cast Avicenna for 5 to save this one thing? Right. Purity, you don't feel bad about killing.
Like, okay, whatever.
It just gets shuffled back in. So, yeah. And like you said, for $1.50, if you get it, play it. Obviously it'll take you a year to see if this card even works because you play the deck so infrequently. But after a while, if it didn't work, I guarantee you have a home for it.
It could go somewhere. So I like it. Very, very good pull. Very deep pull too from the Lorwyn block.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it.
Well, guys, thanks for making it until the end. And as promised, here's some details about our giveaway from our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop. We're going to be giving away a Mystery Commander 20 Precon suited with CMDTower mat sleeves and a sweet signed playmat. To enter, it's extremely simple. Just help promote the content we already produce. You get an entry for every interaction you do with us on social media. We will announce the winner on MTG Action 4 News June 2nd and social media soon after. And yes, I know what you're thinking. We're going to be doing giveaways each month. It could be a sweet deck like this. It could be a sweet card. Nick the Hotness got himself an Orzhov starter bundle. Really depends on what our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop, can provide.
It's going to be hot.
It's going to be feedback on your podcast platform. Because if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave some positive feedback.
Well done. Very good.
Makes you others want to listen as well. If you would like to reach out to us and also know more ways you can enter in to win some free stuff, here's how you can do that. You can find me on Twitter at MrCommon5, all spelled out except for the 5. BigTuck, where can they have these philosophical conversations about bring your own commander with with you?
I am still on the cancer. I am still on the cancer that is Twitter. You can find me there at BigTuck tweeting. Yeah, that's it.
Is it not the toilet that is Twitter?
It's just worse. I mean, like, I can't tell what's worse anymore, TikTok or Twitter. They're like neck and neck.
TikTok, 100%.
What are you doing on TikTok?
Are you on
People
TikTok?
just send me crap on there all the time. It's a nightmare.
Stop it.
Wait, how do they send you stuff on there if you're not on there?
Because you can just send it. Like my friend Karen from Chicago, shout out, drink. Anyway, the point being, you can find me at BigTuck tweeting. I'm on Twitter. Come find me.
You can reach our main account at CMDTower on Twitter as well, or website CMDTower.com. You can also find us on Facebook at CMDTower. Basically, just gotta type in Cold Steel, Magma Quake,
Yes, sir.
Drifting Meadow, Tower,
Very good.
and you'll find us.
That's what I'm talking
Very
about.
good. That's how they do it.
There
That's
we
called
go.
professional right there.
Professional, on the spot, not planned. If you want a game or awesome production team for your own future projects, how would they do that? Squee.
Oh, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Rich Chaos Records. You can find me on the Twitter at dearsquee. I need to get a little more into the Twitter. Yeah, as BigTuck mentioned, it can be a little
exhausting.
cancerous, but don't worry, I'll be back. Photos, maybe a video, no promises.
All right. Well, he does music podcasts, and he does have a full studio that he can video chat with you with, and you can just look at it, but you can't be there, but you can send your stuff over the series of tubes.
Yeah. If you want to see
series of tubes.
what we're doing down here, there's nothing going on right now. It's very calm. It's clean. It's weird.
Well, that's what happens when you're not working. You can clean.
Let's take this thing home, Mr. Combo.
I'm lost.
We're derailing here.
All right. Well, if you guys want to support the show for all these great bits, drips, and drabs, and as well as hook up our
God.
sponsor with the orders you're already doing, head over to level1gameshop.com, and when you place an order in the order notes, just type in CMD Tower, so that it came from The Collective. Outside of their own storefront, they also have a TCG store with over 99% accuracy rating and incredibly competitive prices. They also have the sweet CMD Tower playmat and sleeves, and as well as everything else you need from an MTG and other board game perspective. They are also running virtual tournaments for Magic. They are running virtual hangouts. I think we're even going to try to coordinate some sort of virtual takeover.
Sweet.
They are super active and
Quarantine
everything.
battleground takeover.
Yeah. Which, good segue, Squee. Another way you can support us is over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMDTower. We have several different reward tiers, from as simple as Discord access to even getting a guest spot on the podcast with your own sweet brew, as well as each tier gives you additional entries into the monthly giveaways. And part of our Discord is we do have a free open access that you can find on any of our Twitters, pinned to our profiles, the Quarantine Battleground.
Yeah.
Yes, we understand there's a Play EDH Discord that has everyone, including Jesus Christ, in there. Ours is a little bit more green space, green field, a little chiller.
Chummy,
Yeah.
maybe.
You know, people playing Magic.
People
at
know
one
your
of the-
name there.
Yeah, people playing Magic at 1 a.m., playing it over lunch, Paper Magic, Cockatrice, Arena, MTGO. Go join. It's completely free, and you can have some access. And of course, thank you again to Pink Royal for the music they provide in all of our episodes. So BigTuck, wrapping up, bring your Ownoros. How do you feel?
Pretty good. I like the directions it's taking. I'm actually going to try out Anya next time I play it.
Nice.
And again, it's just funny where it's like, I almost like was going to put an Enlightened Tutor in this, but it's already in here. It's just funny when like, I've started, like, you just, you know, that you don't really, I think one of the things about the show that I like the most about, and like we were kind of straying away from this, and like I kind of like this new idea that we're kind of going through and like taking these colors apart and like talking about decks that we don't play that much or don't like that much, and trying to figure out how to give them a little bit more of an identity. So like with how successful the Zombies episode was last week, yeah, I just thought this kind of came up, and also we're done with Boros. We're not shackled anymore. We can never come back to it if we don't want. I hope we don't. It's a horrible color pairing. So
I don't know. Maybe one of us will build that new Boros companion
ugh, yuck.
combo.
Oh, the combo, yeah. Turn Feather into that, so it's just as annoying. But yeah. Anyways, no, Boros is hard. I don't really know what else to say besides
That's what she
that.
said.
So.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that this was your bring your own more because you were just like, I've tried so many iterations. I'm tired of banging my head up against it.
Sure.
Just it is what it is, and I can swap stuff out. So I liked this because we were each able to say, okay, well, this is the commander that if I was going to start streamlining it, how would I kind of tilt this deck one way or the other without completely just saying, hey, cut out 15 cards and put in these 15.
I completely agree. And like, I've kind of done that. Like, there's been times where I was going to like overhaul a deck because I thought it was too powerful or too boring, and then I get to 45 cards. I'm like, well, I might as well just build a new one anyway and just have something different. So
yeah, and I think this is something to where if you and I have a color pairing that we're just not that hot on, it's like, hey, even if you take both of our cappings, that's 6 total cards. Yeah. 6 card swap isn't going to be a whole new deck that you've now added. It's enough that you will see subtle differences, and it's like, you know what? This actually did enough to where I made it a little bit more fun.
Totally great. And it's going to cost $20 between the two of us to get all of these cards, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you'll have cards like Steel Shaper's Gift get cut that it's like, you know what? Actually, I have an equipment deck that this would be a slam dunk in.
Absolutely.
Let's just move this over. Or once we get back into IRL, they're like, hey, I actually have zero need for this card. I'll trade it in for a couple Soul Rings because I know you need more.
Always. So no, I completely agree. So no, I think this deck, the last time I played it was the most fun I'd had with it, probably since I built it. So I think it's good that it's heading in that direction for sure.
Cool. Well, guys, if you kind of enjoy the format that we're starting to take some of it, it's not going to be like this every week, obviously, but if you like it to where me and BigTuck either talk about our opposite colors deck, like we did with his Prosh Jund deck, my Lord Windgrace Jund deck, or like where we talk about a deck that we're really not big fans of, like this Archangel Addison Boros deck, or my Gisela and Geralt zombie deck, leave us a comment in the podcast below, shoot us a message on Facebook, let us know on Twitter. We have plenty of options. So. Yeah, you can reach out to us anywhere, and it'd be great to know that this is a strategy you would like. Yeah. Well, without further ado, I'm going to see the thrill of possibility of going to sleep. See ya.
See ya.